Hi guys, and welcome to our first virtual assembly. My youngest daughter thinks this is completely idiotic because who on earth is going to actually, go to an assembly that they're not forcibly being made to go to? But hey, she's wrong. I'm right. Here you are listening to me. There's the thing. Um, at this point, we all still look relatively human. I'm not sure we'll still be doing this in a few weeks' time when my hair has been cut by my wife or whatever. But I'm going to look like a complete scarecrow. But for now, here we go. Um, I'm going to do just a sort of little thought for the day sort of thing, like I like to do. And then Emma is going to do a mental health top tip, which is great. And then after that, year 12 are going to get a bit of Mr. Short talking to them about work, and a bit of Miss Isaac talking about progression. Year 13 are going to get a bit more of me talking about exam kind of stuff. So here's my kind of reflection on where we're at the moment, which is all very strange. I'm reading a book at the moment. I do like books, and this one is a really interesting one. It's called How the World Thinks by a guy called Julian Baggini, who is somebody who's been into Rector a few times. And it's really cool. And it gives you a really interesting way of just trying to step outside of the bubble of the way we think and the way that we will perceive things. And he looks all the way around the world at different cultures and the kind of concepts and ways in which they look at things. And in the situation we're in now, there's one thing that really struck me that relates to a particular sort of Japanese way of thinking. He refers to artists and musicians and uh, writers of poetry and so on in the Japanese tradition. And particularly, for example, he draws attention to a kind of a style of painting called enso, and a particular example of this, which is just a circle that's drawn in a single stroke and has two lines of calligraphy, and then just vast amounts of empty space. He talks about Japanese music often also having these big silences that are within it. Um, and he points out something which resonates quite strongly with me at the moment, that emptiness is something that we experience quite negatively in the West because our minds tend to naturally focus our attention on things. And he points out that in East Asia, there is a much more sort of natural focus on the spaces between things. He refers to a psychologist called Richard Nisbett who created a memory test, which he tried out on Americans and then on East Asians, and a very simple picture of a fish in a fish tank. And he sort of showed them it and then took it away and then showed them another one. And he asked them to notice the changes. And in the case of the Americans, they almost invariably noticed changes in the fish. But in the case of the East Asians, they far more commonly noticed changes in the background or in the sort of tank or in the wider space and environment. And that's not genetic. I mean, that's an entirely cultural thing. That's our sense. Our eye is drawn by the thing, and their eye is drawn by the space, and that's quite interesting. And I think in the West we are naturally and culturally, well, culturally not naturally, just uncomfortable. I think with empty spaces of time or empty spaces of space. We tend to want to fill them, and we feel quite uncomfortable if we can't. Um, East Asian cultures, in particular, don't see the emptiness as a void, as something that's got to be filled. They see it as something which connects. They see it very much as the space between things. The Japanese term for this is ma, which I can't pronounce or indeed write. Um, and there's a Japanese word for a person called ningen. And the two parts of that word refer to the concept of human and this concept of betweenness. Who we are is not sort of some inner essential self that you just got to dig really deep in and find. Um, it is defined by our relationships to others and our connections to others. And so, even when we feel most fragile, who we are is still the child of our parents, the friend of our friends, the member of the sixth form community. All of these networks are connections, are holding you. They're supporting you even when you don't see them and feel them. You're never alone in this. Even when you think it, even when the streets are empty, the spaces between you and others are kind of full of love. They're full of thoughts reaching out to you and holding you. And I just wanted to sort of say, as you kind of sit there in your room and whatever, doing the things, thinking the thoughts that you're thinking, um, you need to reflect on the fact that this sort of emptiness that we experience around us at the moment, it's not an emptiness. It is a connecting space. You're still so connected to us. You're so still in our thoughts and in our hearts. And if you're feeling that fragility at the moment, then reaching out towards you is a whole load of goodwill that is going to hold you and carry you through this. So there you go. Wise thought for the day. Read a book if you feel like sort of digging more deeply into that. I'm going to cut out now and hand over to Emma, who will say something else wise and profound.
Hi guys, welcome to my house. This is where I've been for days now. So thought I'd do a little good mental health tip to send out with the virtual assembly, just to keep in touch with you guys. Just so you know, we're all still thinking about you and hoping that you're all okay and being sensible and looking after yourselves. We want to see you all back at school when we're all back together again. And also we're all around. So if you're emailing or I'm available on email or Facebook or any of those things, you can get in touch just to, if you've got any worries or you fancy a chat, that's fine, get in touch. But in terms of our good mental health tip for this week, it's all about social media. Obviously, social media is really useful in lots of ways. So this week I've been checking out what's happening in the world of Instagram with all the dogs that I follow and the home decorators. A little insight into my Instagram following, but also using things like Zoom and FaceTime and WhatsApp to contact friends and be in touch with people, which has been really important for my mental health, to stay in touch and to be able to chat. But also, I have been really aware that I am limiting my access to things like Facebook because there's a lot of people on there with a lot of opinions, there's a lot of fake news, there's a lot of like actual news that's a bit sad that I don't think it's helpful at this time for me to fill my brain with lots of things like that, because actually I can just then go over and over and over it in my head, and that's not good. So my top tips for this week about social media are: one, find the ones that are really useful to you and help you stay in touch. Those are really good things. Two, try and just limit your use of ones that are probably a bit more negative. Don't read people's opinions. If things are factual, that's fine, but try and limit even that a little bit. Think carefully about what is going into your brain at this time. Also, don't touch your face. See what I'm doing here? And try and limit what's going into your brain so that you are filling your head with good stuff as well as factual information about what's going on with the virus, etc. And thirdly, use social media to be kind, to look after one another, to like put good stuff out there in the world. If you're doing that, if you are like posting things, make sure that they are positive and kind and responsive and responsible and useful. Let's make social media a useful and kind thing for the world. Good plan. Let's do that. And also, don't forget to get in touch if you need to. Bye.
Hello. So I've been asked to talk to you about the expectations from us in terms of completing work over the coming weeks. So hopefully now you've been set work for each of your subjects. Now often this will link to Moodle, so you need to make sure that you can get onto Moodle and you're receiving that work. But if at any point that work stops coming and you're not sure of anything you need to do, please make sure you contact your teachers, and any problems there, send me an email. So in terms of how much work you should be doing, as you should be spending on your subjects, so for each day, that's Monday to Friday, you should be spending 6 hours on your subjects, on your 3 A levels. So that's 2 hours on one subject and a break. That's 2 hours on another subject and then a break. And then that's 2 hours on your final subject. That's 6 hours a day. The way I kind of work that out is in your timetable, in your 2-week timetable for each of your subjects, you'll have 10 lessons. So that's 30 lessons, 30 hours if you like, every 2 weeks. And of course, we've always said that every hour you spend on your studies in lessons, you should be spending outside of the classroom. That could be completing homework, or that could be revisiting year 12 kind of content, thinking about the mocks that are happening We just don't know when, and we don't know how we're going to do that, but they are happening, so you need to be preparing for them. So that works out at 6 hours of a day. And I think that's very achievable, but you need to get into good habits. You need to get into a good routine. Some days that will be easier to do than others. It will be testing, and you do need to be really self-motivated. At the same time, I know some of you will need to know the importance of switching off. So when you get to those 6 hours, do stop working and do something else, because you'll need to that kind of time off to do other things over the coming weeks, and it's going to be really testing. So on top of the 6 hours every day, every week we are saying you should also spend 2 hours on your EPGP. Mr. Wheeler has sent you a proposal and lots of resources for you to start thinking a bit more about your essay for Global Perspectives or extended project. There is a massive value in you doing this qualification. There's a massive value in you getting started now. So do follow the guidance that Mr. Wheeler has provided, and you should be spending 2 hours every week on your EPGP. And then finally, because you'd usually have a core or tutorial in your timetable, you should be spending 1 hour a week on your progression. So that's thinking a little bit more about university options and courses, but also apprenticeships. And Miss Isaac's going to send you regular input with advice and support on that and guidance. And we will start thinking about personal statements, no doubt, kind of fairly soon. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that gives you some clear guidance in terms of your schoolwork. So as I said, 6 hours a day, Monday to Friday, nothing on a Saturday, nothing on a Sunday. Do get into a good routine straight away. Do get up at a reasonable hour so you can work those 2 hours and then have a break, and then 2 hours ideally before lunch. That frees you up in the afternoon. Do of course take those breaks. And if there's anything at any point you're not sure about, do get in contact with either your teachers or myself. Do take care. Obviously, this is a really testing time for everybody, and I hope you're all okay. See you soon.
Year 12, just checking in. I will be giving you a weekly progression update, so you can start thinking about your research and what you might do when you finish at Redcliffe at the end of year 13. So we've just had the UCAS exhibition, where hopefully you spoke to lots of university and businesses, and we've just had the progression morning where you heard from university, apprenticeship, gap year and university students. So lots to start thinking about. Now, core lessons at school now would be starting to focus on progression. So I will be sending you a weekly update, so you can spend roughly an hour per week doing this research and starting to think about these things. So it might be some extra reading and starting to write a little section of your personal statement. It might be looking at some virtual open days from different universities. So we can try and keep everything in place that we would normally be doing, but just obviously doing it virtually. So lots of you would have had work experience planned. Now that's unlikely to happen during activities week. I would imagine most providers will be getting in touch with you shortly to let you know that that's been cancelled. Just make sure you do reply and ensure that you can be kept in mind if they're going to offer the work experience next year when you're in year 13. And then we'll also look at putting some other things in place so you can gain the valuable experience and skills that you would have done during that week's placement. So that might look more like a one-day work experience or some volunteering, but we will look at that in more detail when we are back at school. In the meantime, I've got one thing I want you to think about, and that is following Redcliffe Progression on Instagram. So if you've got an Instagram account and you can follow Redcliffe Progression, as well as the weekly email, I'll be sort of drip feeding lots of things from there, from different universities, from different apprenticeship and gap year providers. So please follow Redcliffe Progression. I've currently got 177 followers. So let's see if we can double that. Most of those are year 13 anyway, so we should be able to get some more numbers. So stay safe and email me if you've got any specific progression queries, and I'll send some resources over at the end of the week. Bye.